Come on, guys and gals. Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. If I give a group 15 minutes, they take 30. If I give them 20, they take 40. So it's kind of the standard real estate MO. One of you with, I don't know why, great concern said to me at the back, "Are you okay?" And I said, "With what?" So I thought maybe something was wrong. "Are you okay?" I said, "With what?" "Well, you're losing weight." I said, "Yes." "And I guess you're thinking something is wrong." "I'm trying to extend my life." Okay? It's not brain surgery. They offered brain surgery, but my brain wasn't big enough, so they decided not to operate. Okay? You know, my doctor said you could do this for another 15 to 18 years if you take good care of yourself. I said, I'm planning on that. So, you know, it's nothing magical. I'm just trying to extend my life a little bit. So would you agree that not only are those three challenges we brought up, low purpose and productivity, low average income, and of course high turnover, would you agree those are valid problems, yes or no? Yes. Okay. And I think your good advice offered some good solutions, whether you have a small team of 5 or 10 or you have a big company with 400 or 500. I think your advice was the best advice. So thank you for your participation. So then I wrote down this thought to consider for you to maybe change your perspective a little bit. I said, I believe that those three problems are legitimate problems. But I think the bigger problem we face that I brought up earlier this morning is the problem of leadership. The problem of leadership. So as I do for a regular basis, I went to Webster's dictionary and looked up the word leadership. And I'm going to ask you to write this down. It's an interesting definition for the word leadership, and I think it is meaningful and one that we can all formulate and learn from, okay? Here's what Webster says leadership is. A time when a person holds a position of leading a group. A time when a person holds a position of leading a group, which is what a real estate sales organization should be. A time when a person holds a position leading a group, comma, or has the capacity to lead a group of individuals, or has the capacity to lead a group of individuals. So this morning, early I was reviewing Bernie, which I always do the notes I'm going to cover, and I kept looking at this, and then I made a little note. These are almost two different definitions. Okay, the first definition, a time when a person holds the position of leading a group. And I circled holds the position. But then I went on and it said, or the capacity to lead a group of individuals. And then I circled the capacity. So the truth is, I could have the position of owner, broker, team leader and not have the capacity to do the job. Is that a possibility, yes or no? Yes. Now, I guess in the U.S., where is my friend Fadi sitting? Over here. So, Fadi, please stand up for a moment. Fadi owns a large company in Montreal, Canada. And he's our only participant from Canada because the border is closed. And about 6 months ago, when he found out the border was going to be closed, he flew to Fort Lauderdale, where he has a residence, has spent 6 months managing his company in Montreal from Fort Lauderdale, so we are happy to have one good Canadian broker in attendance, so I'm applauding for Fadi. Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, you could have the title and not the capacity. Does that make sense to anybody here? Now, I'm not going to point to you and say, do you have the capacity to hold on to the title? But see, most real estate companies, and there's 86,000 real estate companies in the U.S. today. Okay, it's down a little bit. It's down 4,000 to 5,000. It was 90,000 probably 18 months ago. And I'm not sure that most of the leadership really has the capacity. They just, through time, got into the position they're in. Or, Jason, we see a top producing person like yourself, and through time, you're just looking for other avenues of creating revenue, so you start building a team. So I believe in Jason's case, he has the capacity to build a team. And I get to work with Bernie every week, and we work on leadership all the time. So then I went a step further. I put down, I believe the hard part of building a team, building a company, is the lack of leadership skills and a strong leadership mindset. So I think the challenge is the lack of leadership skills. And we'll look at those, okay? A lack of leadership skills and a lack of a strong leadership mindset. Having a strong mindset that you're a leader. So Gunther Kloss, Mike Vance, Earl Nightingale, my three mentors most of my adult life until they passed away, who were also highly respected platform speakers, said to me 1,000 times, if you're going to be any kind of a speaker of substance in real estate and last a long time, and you don't have the leadership capacity to learn how to control an audience, you're never going to make it. Okay, should a broker be doing sales training? Yes. Come on, real loud. Yes. Sales meetings? Yes. How strong are you? Because that's really what that word capacity comes down to. And we're going to look at that in just a minute. So I wrote down, to build a company, there are three basic fundamentals. And if I'm talking about building a company, I'm also talking about building a team. So I wrote number one, 50% developing your leadership skills. 50% developing your leadership skills and the qualities of a great leader. So my job is, in my little company, I had to work for years on developing my leadership skills because I didn't have any. So I picked one person that I studied for probably 15 years. And I studied this one person nonstop. And it was a man named Jack Welch, who was the chairman of GE, which for many, many years was the largest corporation in the world. So if you can picture, this is GE Holding Corporation that he was chairman of. Julio, there were 290 separate operating corporations underneath his leadership pole. And one of my goals was to read every book written about him because he was designated by industry as being the strongest and best leader there was. And I thought, well, if I want to be a leader, I must also read about the best leader. So if you want to read a fun series of books, and Lee, I brought these up last week, there's a wonderful author whose name is Janet Lowe, L-O-W-E. Janet Lowe, L-O-W-E. And Bernie has written this series of books, and what she does is she interviews very successful people. And the books are short, 100 pages, and all it is an interview. And she asks questions, and then she puts together their answers. And she's done everybody from a Michael Jordan to an Oprah to a Tiger Woods to Jack Welch, Warren Buffett. It's a series, and they're just wonderful books to read. But the funniest one is she interviews Warren Buffett, who I think now probably is close to 90 years old and as active as ever. And she said to Warren Buffett, the day of your funeral, people will walk by to pay their respects. What do you want them to say when they look down at you? He said, I want them to say, boy, was he ever old. Which is the right answer, okay? Well, her writing on Jack Welch was, I thought, one of the best books she wrote, because it was in line with me learning how to be a leader. So 50% of my job is to develop my leadership skills and qualities of a great leader. How do I do it? I read about the great leaders. So then I started studying, which I did inside out, backwards and forward, Michael Eisner, who is the chairman of Disney Corporation and took it from a flailing company in the 80s, as big as it is, to being one of the monumental corporations in the world, and then retired. So if you want to read some great leadership skills, read about Michael Eisner. I mean, the guy ran one of the biggest corporations in the world. And then, of course, I always say, why would a person like all of us in this room not read these kind of books? Because we don't want to admit we don't have those skills. And I will show you the first person that doesn't have a lot of these skills is me. So I'm always trying to read and learn how to develop those skills. So number one, 50% developing leadership skills, the qualities of a great leader. Number two, it's also 50%, and this is a bit of a long sentence, learning how to recruit, comma, train, and not choo-choo, training, comma, coach. And every broker thinks they're a coach, and 99% of them can't even spell coach, much less do it. Okay, well, it's most of us, okay? Comma, hold people accountable. And I'm sorry for such a long sentence, but it's what I wrote. And confront when necessary. So it's 50% learning how to recruit, train, coach, hold people accountable, confront when necessary. And that is a big portion of being a team leader, a broker, a manager, an owner, building a company, is letter number two. But then you'll like number three. It's 50%. Can't add. I got F's in school in math, okay? Learning the other 150 plus leadership skills. So one, developing the leadership skills and qualities of a great leader. Number two, learning how to recruit, train, coach, hold people accountable, confront when necessary. And then number three, it's 50% learning the other 150 leadership skills required to build a business. And I think for those that I've known for a long time, I think a lot of you will recognize that, in my opinion, the PPP and the low average income and the turnover can actually be solved by the development of the leadership side. First of all, does that make sense to you? Yes. So the question then is, how much are you going to let what you've always done get in the way of 1, 2, and 3, 50, 50, 50? Because life gets in the way of that 50, 50, 50. So I wrote down this thought. I believe it's more leadership than anything else. And then I wrote down, what is your opinion? So I want you to write down, what is my opinion? And although it's unlikely you'll be expressing your opinion to me publicly here, which is okay, as you meet for breakfast or lunch for dinner, or you meet with your team and your staff members, you should be discussing your opinions on this thing, because the truth is, great leaders run the best companies. And I got to tell you, there's a series of funny things taking place in our industry today, which baffle me, because now some of these large companies are going public. So this morning on LinkedIn, there was this little promotional piece, virtual seminar with the world's greatest leader, just took his company public, come and watch. And I looked at it and thought, Jesus criminy, the greatest leader, and he led that company last year to a $275 million loss. If that's a great leader, we are in big trouble. Or pay attention to what we're doing here today. Because the amount of bullshit in this industry is so much that it could fill this hotel from the ground floor to the top in a nanosecond. So you have to decide how you're going to solve the per person productivity, low income, and turnover, and is the solution developing your leadership skills and your leadership mindset. So if we go back to that leadership mindset, number 2, 50% learning to recruit, train, coach, hold accountable, and confront, underline the word confront. Underline the word confront. Most of you know my 2 older sons, Matt and Tom, and they worked at the company for, I think, 12, 15 years. And were a really important part of the growth of the company, which I'm open to talk about any time. And they both made the decision to leave. And of course, it's very rare that anybody says, why did they leave? Because I was paying both Matt and Tom. And now they were in their 20s. Paid them both $1 million a year salary. Now, well, that's a lot of money. Okay, watch this. I make a lot of money. Okay, now that bothers some of you. It doesn't bother me. And it didn't bother Matt and Tom, because I paid them, Brian, extraordinary amounts of money. Okay? And then they left. Everybody say why? Why? Because they couldn't, they're both analytical and very bright. I mean, Matt and Tom are really bright. But they can't stand the fact that Dad confronts things all the time. And I mean, I would be doing a seminar and they're in the back and at the break, Dad, you can't say those things. You said things that you can't say. Oh my God, you attacked that person. How do you do that? It's leadership. Yes or no? Yes. So I'm doing a program in Vero Beach, Florida, just before COVID hit. We had 200 CB agents in the room. I think it's Cobank or Schlitt or something like that. I can't remember the name of the company. It's a good, Brian, you probably know who they are. They're just straight up north of you, probably 100 miles. And, it wasn't social spacing. So, we had 200 people, same thing we have here, but in condensed space. And I was talking about the fact that, you've got to understand that even though I know you love social media, it is not the answer to your problems. And I said, I know you love branding yourself, but for God's sakes, Coca-Cola spends $2 billion a year branding to be as big as they are. And you got a budget of $20,000. It is not going to make a difference in the world, okay, your branding efforts. And I said, for example, you all put your pictures on your business cards. Folks, do you not have a mirror? I mean, God, look in the mirror. And then you want to put that on everything? It's frightening. It's fraud. I mean, it's simply fraud. That's all it is. And you know it and I know it. So I'm walking across the front of the room and a lady had her stack of business cards in front of her. So I just picked one up and I'm walking along talking about the fact that, real estate people commit fraud every day because of the imaging that they put out. And then I looked at her card and I looked back at her and I said, folks, look at this card. This is an example of the fraud I'm talking about. Well, because I will do that, Matt and Tom finally couldn't take it, and they finally left, which, they've done both a great job building their own little companies, which I'm fine with. Because, see, the truth is, all of you that have run good companies have started a lot of other good companies. Because you all came from somewhere. And most time you came from someplace that you wanted to improve the quality of what was being done. So I think that confrontation is one of the biggest parts of leadership. So when I read about Jack Welch, in one of his later books, Bernie, 290 corporations. So once a month, he would get a condensed P&L on all 290 companies. Now, that would be a stack as big as this table. And he would sit with the red pen, and he would go through every P&L and put red check marks and make notes, and then send it back to the president and say, solve this problem before next month. And he did that every month with 290 companies, which is why it was the most profitable corporation at that time in the world. Confrontation. Now some of you say, oh, I'm amiable, I don't want to confront people. I'm analytical, I can't confront people. Try it, you'll like it. Okay? Everybody say why? Why? Because they will respect you more. They don't want to work for a pushover. Okay? So don't write this down, I want you just to listen. 2 questions. You hold a position of leadership. Outside of having the title, are you viewed as a leader, and does everyone in your company see you in that position? And then I wrote, be honest. Okay, you hold a position inside your company of being a leader. Outside of having the title on your business card, are you viewed as a leader, and does everyone in your company see you in that position? Watch, we have, 90 coaches, and we have, Bernie, probably 50 employees in our headquarters here in Las Vegas. And I don't, Sabrina runs the company, Tony and Serena run it jointly, and I don't get heavily involved, but I think most of our employees, when I walk in, they pay attention. I don't have to say anything, okay? In fact, I think when I pull up in my car in the morning, somebody goes, he's here, and it goes right through the office. And I'm okay with that, okay? Because I have the position of leadership. And then I wrote down this question, have you really developed the skills and mindset of a leader, and have you taken the time to study those skills and mindset? Because I've spent most of my adult life studying the mindset and skills of leadership. And every time I studied it in depth with you, it came back to that word confrontation and then the word accountability. Which is why when I started the coaching in 1988, we made accountability and coaching a big part, or accountability and confrontation a big part of our coaching program. So I asked a competitive coaching client, a competitive coach pre-COVID, because I haven't seen a lot of them since. I said, so what is your coaching all about? And this is a pretty prominent player in the coaching field. He said, well, our job is very simple. We say, what are you doing? And then how do we make it better? I said, what if they're not doing anything? It really makes coaching hard. I said, well, why don't you suggest things for them to do? Oh, yeah, but they may not like it. Okay, who's been with me before? Do you like everything I suggest? No. Come on, let's hear it. No. All right. Do you, yeah, Randy said double no. Okay. Do you do 100% of what I say? No. Come on, real loud. No. Okay, so we have some really superstar agents sitting in this room, and I can't see all of you because of these lights. Jason, do you do 100% of what I teach for a great salesperson? No. About what percentage of what I teach do you do? 30%. And what are you going to gross this year? Just over $2 million. Over $2 million. Okay. So watch. Bernie, I've worked with you personally for years and years and years. And you're on track this year to gross what, probably between 8 and 9 million? Yeah, 10 million. Do you do 100% of what I say? 25%. And he'll gross 10 million, Gene. That's, now 10 times 4 is more. Well, are you saying he could do 40 million if he did 100% of what you teach? I don't know. We've never had anybody do 100%. Okay. Jeff, how many deals will you do this year? 175. What percentage of what I teach do you do? 20-25%. Can you imagine if somebody actually did like 50%? But then you take a great sports coach, whether it be a pro football or basketball or college football or basketball or baseball, the coaches know that if a player in baseball hits 300, which means for every 10 times at bat they get 3 hits, which means they fail 7 times out of 10, they would pay that person 15, 20 million per year. So I'm not expecting you guys to do everything I say, but maybe if you just worked on the confrontation and holding them accountable. Make sense, yes or no? Yes. You want to work on that? Yes. Okay, let's go home. I'm fine. Okay, let's see you guys next year. Because those are going to be the key, in my opinion, to becoming a stronger leader. So I wrote the following. We created this thing when the pandemic started to try to help brokers. And some of you in this room are part of this that we started. We started this thing called the Elite Brokerage Program. And it came about because, a lot of these longtime great friends like Julio and some of you, you want your agents to participate. Their income isn't very strong. So, this elite little program we put together, we do 4 webinars per year for the brokerage firm. We allow the agents to attend all of our events at 50% off, and that helps the broker encourage it. And, it's a great little program for brokers and managers. And I think almost everybody in this room was invited to be part of it, and only about, 30% of you would spend the $2,500 to do this, and I'm okay with that. So I invited this broker from the Midwest to be part of this thing. And he sends me this email. This was probably around July. And I wrote in the middle of the pandemic, I got an email, and this guy said, I'll join your coaching, but I won't join this elite. I said, okay. He said, I like your energy and I love your enthusiasm. To which I'm thinking, well, I like that, thank you. But your sales ideas are tired and old-fashioned. You don't understand all the disruptors that are taking place in real estate. So because I'm not the brightest bulb in the pack, and I'm the first to admit that, I didn't go to college. Well, I went for 1 semester, okay? And I flunked out, which I did, okay? I majored in speech. I took 2 speech classes my freshman year at San Jose State College, flunked both classes, okay? So don't give me that crap that you can't do something because you failed. If you're not going to do it, you might as well just keep failing. So I looked up the word disruption, and I came up with this Webster's Dictionary. So let's write down the word disruption. Because the truth is, I think the fact that you're here makes you a disruptor in our industry today. So here's what the dictionary says. To cause something to be unable. To cause something to be unable to continue. To cause something to be unable to continue in the normal way or interrupt the process. To cause something to be unable to continue in the normal way or to interrupt the process. And I looked that up and I kept looking at it because this took place, I think it was mid-June of last year. And I kept looking at this guy saying, I love your energy, I love your enthusiasm, but your ideas are tired and old-fashioned. So I found this list, Sydney, that I think you and I put together, which was kind of fun. Okay? If you're sitting in a chair, they were invented 2680 BC. They're a little tired and old-fashioned. You're holding a spiral-bound notebook. It was invented in 1924. See, 24, 34, 44, 54, 64, 74, 84, 94, 104, 114. It's 90-some years old. If you're writing with an ink pen, invented 1888. I was born in 45. I'm like young compared to this stuff. Okay. Let's see, if you're wearing pants, because we don't know who wears them in your family. That'll be deleted out of the video, I can guarantee it. Earliest pair of pants was found in the year 1000 BC. And if you're not wearing pants, something you have on has a zipper. And a zipper has never changed since its invention in 1913. So in consideration, I'm the new kid on the block. And what I haven't changed is what works for brokers, managers, and agents. And we refer that to a disruption today because everybody teaches everything. So one of my competitors just put out this little video, and I get them on LinkedIn, so I like to watch these things that everybody is saying. And of course, most of the competitors, I don't get this at all, okay? The guys are all wearing a t-shirt, the 2-day beard, and their hat on backwards. And these are quote-unquote professional coaches, okay, or professional brokers. I don't get it at all. And then unfortunately, most of the gals are wearing something about 9 sizes too small, which I really don't understand. I don't know what you're advertising, okay? Because if that's your recruiting lead, we used to have them up and down the strip all the time. That COVID drove most of them away, So I wrote down, is what Mike Ferry teaches a disruption, or is it fundamentals? So if I look at the word fundamentals, it's something that has lasted a long time because it works. And in selling anything, there are certain fundamentals. So my competitor puts a video out. Latest and greatest ways to make and take listings. Now watch, titled, Bobby, latest and greatest ways to take listings. That was the title. Well, I'm going to look at that because I'm always trying to figure out ways to help all of you and your agents take more listings. Number 1, hold open house every Saturday and Sunday. I went, wait. So I replayed that first part. I thought I didn't hear. So I took my hearing aids out, rattled them, put them back in. Number 1 way to take listings, hold open house every Saturday, Sunday. Now, does that even make sense? Come on, say it. No, of course, you guys keep making your agents hold open house, which I don't understand because that brings more buyers, and more buyers brings more frustration to your agents, which causes the low per person productivity, which then causes the low income, which causes the turnover because they can't get anybody to get their offers accepted because they don't know how to work a buyer. So today, it's actually easier to take a listing than get a buyer to buy a house. And if you don't understand that one, wake up, okay? Or to use today's expression, are you woke? Okay? Because trying to get a buyer and write offers and be one of 10 or 20, 4 or 5 times, it will drive the average buyer away from your agent and drive your agent out of the business. And it usually, if your agents are going after a listing, there's 2 or 3 people competing for the listing, and there's 50 people competing to sell it with 20 offers. So it's actually easier to list property. But of course, listing property is the needle in the haystack. And the buyers are the haystack. But there's only one needle, which is the listing. So therefore, the way to help an agent become better and disrupt their non-productivity is spend more time teaching them the fundamentals of how to take a listing, which was brought up earlier this morning by one of you. So I keep saying to myself, the fundamentals of selling in every industry are solid gold. But it's only this industry. So this video said, number one, hold an open house. Number two, get a small 300-home geographic farm. Well, you know, Tommy Hopkins invented that in 1970. Never made any sense to me because a geographic farm restricts the agent's potential productivity. Because if there's 300 homes and 10% sell per year, that's 30, and there's going to be a variety of companies, so maybe if the agent really works it hard, they might get 5 to 6 listings out of the 30 if that's a good agent. But a protected geographic farm, which is the single dumbest thing real estate ever did. Now, did you hear what I just said? Protecting an agent's geographic farm is dumb and dumber all in one package. Everybody say why? Because nobody in your company can work in that farm, but the competition can. And then your agent never works the farm, but they've been assigned the farm. So now we take Dumb Dumber and Ron White, who says you can't fix stupid, all in one package. So number one, hold open house. Number two, work a geographic farm. Number three, buy leads off the internet. Generally speaking, when you buy leads, are you getting buyer leads or seller leads? I'm sorry? Oh, do you need more buyer leads? We need more listings. So I make the big bucks. I figure these things out. Okay. But then number four, be actively involved in putting ads on social media. And of course, Facebook just changed the rules and changed the law last week about advertising and being able to unsubscribe from all the ads, which is going to really change a lot of the marketing that goes on through social media. And then number five, build a team immediately. And he actually says, if you're a brand new licensee starting today, hire an assistant and a buyer's agent on day one. What do you do with them? Hi, welcome to the team. Well, how do I make money? I don't know. I've never made any myself. Never had a deal. But if you get one, we'll share in it. Folks, I'm not exaggerating any of this stuff. You know what's going on, okay? So then I thought, okay, so what does Mike Ferry teach? So I wrote down this thought. Brokers and my competition are always looking for something new every month because most of what they're teaching does not work. So let's do a be real. Are you looking for something new because what you're doing doesn't work? And if you're going to look for something new, I'm going to say try something old. Now, some of you say, well, if you're looking for something new, why would you try something old? Because this old stuff has been around since selling began. So I always use this example. You have a family doctor, and you go in once in a while for a physical, and the doctor may have to make a couple recommendations. Do you always do what those recommendations are? Yes or no? No. Come on, be honest. No. Then I say, why would you go to the doctor if you're not going to do what the doctor says? Okay? Doesn't make any sense. Get on a commercial flight and the captain says, we're at 30,000 feet. We're going to experience some bumps for the next 10, 15 minutes. Keep your seatbelt on. It'll be for your safety and the safety and comfort of those around you. Nah, take mine off. Then you hit a little dip, your head hits the ceiling, and then you sue the airline. because you're a realtor. Okay? That makes no sense. So we keep looking for something new because what we're doing doesn't work. So the question I want you to write down, does your recruiting, training, etc. really work? We appreciate that you're participating. We appreciate that you use a lot of what we suggest. But then why are you always looking around the corner and peeking through the door at the latest social media trick, the latest app that you can put your agents on? When the agents are not going to respond to the people that look at their app because they don't know what to say. Doesn't make any sense. So, here's some of the disruptions that I've created. So Samir and I made a list of the crazy disruptions. Let's see. I created a thing called the Transaction Coordinator in 1984. I don't know if you guys knew that came from a meeting I had in Los Angeles, Bernie, with 25 brokers under the banner of First American Title. And they were complaining about the fact that their agents spent all their time working on their deals. So I said, well, I got a great idea. Why don't you hire a person? And every time a contract is signed, it goes to that person, and they process the transaction inside the company so the agents can't hold on to the file and spend all their time on a file so they can go create new files and charge the agent $300 or $400 to handle the transaction for them. Then I created a thing called the Call Coordinator, which is having somebody besides the agents answer the phones and screwing up the sign and ad calls that you get all the time. Because we determined the biggest expense a broker has is not the advertising expense, it's the loss of commissions from the conversions. Because who do we have answer the phone? The dumbest agents in the office that are non-productive. Isn't that a brilliant concept? I was the first one to do assistance training. The first one to do actual business planning, which we started in 1985. The first one to do a management retreat. We started these in 1986. The first superstar retreats, which we've been doing now since 1985. The first buyer agent training classes were put on by that crazy disruptor, Mike Ferry. The first prospecting clinics, which we have been doing virtually now for a year. The first action workshop, the first agent script training, the first Think Big training, the first numbers analyzer, the first online TV program. We just celebrated our 700th TV program that we have online for agents to watch. The first 24-hour mobile app, the first sales tracking app, the first profitability workshop, the original sales team training, which everybody says today, my God, you have sales team. Oh my God, sales team is the answer. We've been training people on that for 30 years. We created the first elite and summit conferences for Coldwell Banker and Prudential. I created 4 Coldwell Banker Prudential, their summit conferences, which we did for years and years. The first management academies, okay? We coach people in 17 languages. Okay, and we're the first company out of America to do this training in all of Europe and Russia, where we have companies in those 2 countries. So I guess if you think that disruptions are part of your life, the fundamental disruptions that we keep talking about are the name of the game. So you don't have to look any further. Just look ahead. Because the answers are sitting in front of you. So, I want to switch gears a little bit. And I said, if you sold real estate as an agent, were you any good at it? Okay, now just think about the question. Most of you sold real estate as an agent. Were you any good at it? And then the question, Michael, is why? Why were you good at it? Then I wrote down, did any of your production come as a result of taking listings? And if you analyze your productivity, Most of you, Lucy, did it all because of your great listing skills. Did any of your production come as a result of talking to people? And the answer in almost all cases is yes. So recruiting is the same as when you were an agent prospecting to take listings. So there used to be, and I'm sure some of you remember this, there used to be two groups operating in the United States. And one was called the Dirty Dozen. And I can't remember the name of the other group. Oh, the other group was called the Masterminds. And what they were, Julio, is they were independent real estate companies that got together as a mastermind group, and they wouldn't let any of the franchises be part of it. Because most of the big franchises have their own mastermind groups of some type. Coldwell Banker, C21, all the good companies have these mastermind groups. So I got invited to New Orleans, Louisiana to come and speak, okay, to this group called the Dirty Dozen. And I was excited because I looked at the roster, and the first thing I discovered was the Dirty Dozen had 33 companies in it. So my opening comment was, you need a CFO, because you obviously can't add, because you have 33 members of a group called the Dirty Dozen. Well, I get there the night before, and I've prepared my notes to speak from 9 until noon. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call in my room. It was a beautiful place down in New Orleans. And I answer the phone, and this guy says, I'm the chairman of the board of directors of our group. I said, well, nice to meet you. We just had a board of directors meeting, and quite honestly, we've decided we're not going to let you speak this morning. And I said, well, okay, why? He said, well, we think you're too controversial to speak to our group. I said, okay, I am controversial. I ask people to go to work. I ask them to follow certain guidelines, to set standards, to pay attention to those standards. And I said, by the way, we have a valid contract in play. So if you wouldn't mind bringing up my pay for the seminar I'm not doing, which by contract you have to pay, and for my round trip airfare, I'm in room 1302. He goes, well, if you're not going to speak, we're not going to pay you. I said, well, fine, I'll sue you and I'll win. So take a choice, I'm here. Let me call you back. 5 minutes later, he calls back. We just reconvened the board, and if you're going to sue us and win, we'll have you speak. Only in real estate do they think like this. So I took my notes and I tore them in half and I threw them away. And I had 45 minutes. And then I wrote a question down at the top of a sheet of paper. I wrote down, I just don't understand this business, and I don't understand why I don't understand. Because at that time I'd been doing this for 20 years. So I started writing down all the things I don't understand about the real estate business. And Bernie, all of a sudden I had a list of like 30 things that I am clueless on then and pretty clueless on today. And I wrote things down like, why do you have 9 offices? I'm not attacking my friend Neil, when your competition has the same number of agents in one. 9-1, expense overhead, return on investment. Why do you have a beautiful office that nobody goes to? Why not have a mobile home on wheels that you could take around town? Why do you have training that doesn't lead to productivity? Why do you have agents that haven't sold a home in 2 or 3 years and you keep them on staff? Why do you have managers managing offices that don't know how to recruit? And I had made a list of 30 of these, or maybe there was 33. So I come in the next morning, or 45 minutes later, and I said, first of all, I'm going to make a recommendation that you folks on your board hire a chief financial officer, because obviously you have no clue on how to count. Because you can't have a group called the Dirty Dozen and have 33 members. That would be the Dirty 33. So get that figured out. And then I read to them my list of I don't understand, and I made them write them all down. And when I got to the end, which was 2 hours and 45 minutes later, I said, thank you for your time. And I said, if the man who had hired me, meet me at the door and give me my check. Well, 5 big brokers, including the John Douglas Company, came running over to me as I was standing at the door and said, what do you charge for a 3-day event inside our company? And at that time, I was charging $25,000 for 3 days. And 5 of them hired me on the spot. Okay? And I have to tell you, for a couple of them, it was their best decision. Because we started establishing some of these fundamentals on how to make a company more productive, knowing that 75% of the agents in your company will never listen to one thing I say. Everybody say why? Because they want to hear stuff that they like. And as a good leader, you're not going to be able to just say things that they like. So Alan Dalton, who I've always respected, in fact, I think that book was dedicated to Alan Dalton originally that I wrote, did a wonderful little program one time called Telling the Truth. And his program was on, why don't brokers tell the truth to agents? John, you've been with me for 3 months. You haven't done one thing I've said for 3 months. You're fired. Get out. Why don't we do that? Oh, it's so hard to recruit. Well, you recruited that nincompoop. Go find another one. But that's not what you want to hear. Am I right or wrong? You know, we want to hear some little new formula, and there isn't any new formula. And if there is a new formula, none of it knows what it is. And yet everybody, and I say this respectfully to all my competitors, they stand up and speak with one goal. And I'll never forget, there's a wonderful speaker down in Phoenix, Arizona. I think he's probably semi-retired. His name is Steve Cates, and we were good friends for a long time. And he was a very inspirational speaker, and I brought him to some of my events to speak, because first of all, I like the guy a lot. He's a quality guy, and his message is not like mine. It's, more, we can all love and hug, and, it isn't my message, in case you're wondering, okay? So, Steve Cates said to me one day, tell me why you do your seminars the way you do. I said, well, I want to create an impact and I want to make money. And I said, why do you do your seminars the way you do? And with a perfectly positive and very non-emotional response, he said, I do it because I want the audience to like me. And he said, Mike, aren't you concerned about the audience liking you? I said, no. Why aren't you concerned? I said, because it doesn't matter what approach I would take, somebody's not going to like me. So I got hired to come down to Scottsdale, Arizona, Jason, many years ago. And there was an independent promoter that promoted events, both in real estate and outside. And he went out and he sold 1,000 tickets for this event, and I was the keynote speaker for the day. And he sold the tickets for $400 or $500 each. The guy was a great promoter. And he paid me my fee, and, it was a weird room because there were 1,000 people, chairs only, but they set up a stage that is from there to there, but it was 7 feet high. And it was this little tiny square. And I climbed up on the stage, and, I'm looking straight down at people down there, so I went down the stairs and I stood in front of the group, and I said, I apologize, some of you can't see me well, but I'm nothing to look like. It's just the message I'm trying to deliver, so pay attention. And some guy in the back of the room screams out, get back up on the stage or I'm leaving. I said, take a hike. So about a week later, because we didn't have fax and, voicemail and the stuff we have today, I get a 2-page single-spaced letter from this man that I asked to leave, criticizing, the fact I wouldn't get on the stage. I didn't know how to respond, so I sent that 2-page letter to John, the guy that hired me, with a check for $500 for the $500 he lost on this guy. And I said, I apologize, but I can't stand on a stage and do a seminar of that type. I explained that to you. About a week later, I get a UPS-type package back, and I rip the top open and I turn it down, and that 2-page letter is shredded into 1,000 pieces. And there's a note from the guy that hired me. Mike, He said, this may offend you, but I'm a very religious man. And when I look and see the good Lord Jesus show up at his events, he had long hair and a beard, and he wore funny dresses and sandals. And half the people didn't like him. He said, Mike, only one guy didn't like you. Great job. Okay? And that was the end of that. Okay? Well, you got to get over the I want to be liked to be a great leader. You got to get over that. And I have to tell you, I've lasted 46 years, and with a little bit of luck and taking care of myself, I don't think I'll be doing this in 20 years. I certainly, if I can, I'll be happy to do it, but I don't think I will be. And we're bringing up some good people to take my place in terms of the speaking side. But for goodness sakes, if the only goal is to be liked, sell ice cream. Because it seems like everybody likes ice cream. And if you can't pick out one of 45 flavors to satisfy yourself, don't go to the ice cream store. Okay? So you got to get over the being liked part if you're going to move ahead with your business. And then when you start really developing those leadership skills at the highest level, only 25% of your agents are going to do what you say. And Alex, look at what you two have done in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, it's extraordinary what you guys have done.
Yeah, I just want to tell the group that this stuff works.
Well, if you're going to brag, stand up. Okay.
I'm not bragging, but that's what I want to say. So this is a horrible story.
Turn around. Turn around so they can hear.
So about 5 years ago, I had one of these discount companies, okay, folks, and we were about like a $2.5 million GCI company, but I knew with Chef and Anthony, we had to get better, so then, we decided we got to do something different. Now, it's like Mike says, you don't change your mind shift overnight, it's a process, but now, I hate discount companies with a passion, and we don't have one agent. We don't have one agent on CAPS. And when people come, when we interview an agent and they come talk to us, and they start bringing up CAPS, Shep, stand up. Shep can see my face getting angry, and Anthony too. So that's the one thing I want to say. Anthony's our director of training, and we got Shep Mullen over there. That's my business partner. But the one thing I want to say, this 15-second, Mike, is like people will die for good leadership. Through history, you can see I just read a book, 20 battles that made the history of the world. And in a lot of these situations, you had leaders that were really undermanned that were able just to overcome the odds and change history. And look at what George Washington, George Washington was the richest man in Virginia, gave up everything. He was over there in Valley Forge with a ragtag bunch of people in the middle of winter about to give up. So, not about to give up, not giving up. So the point is, all I want to say is people will die for good leadership, and everybody has a sense to be part of something bigger than themselves, and it's your responsibility to fill that void.
But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When we started working together, you had like 100 agents. Mm-hmm. They were all on a little tiny pay per transaction. I had to convince you and Shep to get rid of all 100 agents and start over. Today you have how many agents in the company?
Well, our per agent productivity is about 9, but we have 130.
Okay. And
or 10. So we have good per agent, 130, yes, sir.
And you were doing about $2 million in GCI when we met, and you had no profit on that. What is your GCI going to be this year?
$7.5 million.
So it took 4 or 5 years, but you've added $5 million in GCI, and everybody's on a regular commission split, and this great team of 3 can make a profit, which they deserve. So thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's tough, but Alex, one more question for you. If you please stand up for 1 second, because there's something that they need to know. What is your background?
No, I mean,
I'm sorry?
I got lucky Well, I'm not got lucky. I was like, I was an Army Ranger, so I was like in special operations, which was, but it's
No, not but.
yeah.
Special operations, that's the guys that saved the country, okay?
Maybe.
I mean, these guys go out and save the world every day. So the discipline that he had to apply was the difference between becoming who you are today and who you were. So watch, and they have agents. I mean, Shep couldn't be a nicer guy. The training that you guys do is top of the line. And still some people don't like it. So accept the fact that is, I mean, Julio, you could be you're a good Christian, you're a good man, you're a good family person, and there's still people that don't make it. You got to accept the fact, in being a great leader, that some people aren't going to like what you have to say. And if 25% follow and they become productive, you can change their lives forever, and more importantly, change your own, which is the name of the game. So I don't have a list, Sabrina, of what restaurants are open in the Venetian Palazzo on a Monday. What is that restaurant we used to eat at all the time in the Palazzo?
Cafe Lux.
Okay, so you're going to love this. The #1 restaurant in the United States is in the Venetian for volume. It's called Cafe Lux, and it's probably within 100 feet of us. And there's one here, and there's one in the Palazzo, which is attached. Upstairs in the Venetian, you know, they have these canals where you can paddle around like you're in Venice, and they have probably a dozen restaurants up there. So even though we're a small group, we're going to take 90 minutes for lunch, and I'm going to ask you then to do the best you can to go someplace and get a bite quickly, because you know, it's a restaurant and they're not always real quick. So I'm going to ask all of you to be, first of all, if you see somebody else with the name badge on, invite them to sit with you so we can speed up the process, okay? And my watch says it's 12 o'clock. We'll resume again at 1:30, and thank you for this morning, okay? Thank you very much.